Hey, good morning, everyone, and happy Monday to you. We are going to be finishing up 2 Samuel chapter 1 today, and just want to point out that our last time together we had to deal with vengeance, and I don't want you to miss that. And what I don't want you to miss is the treasure and the reward of going verse by verse through the Bible. In this case, we're going chronologically from Genesis to Revelation. Maybe you're not. Maybe you don't want to go chronologically. Maybe you want to, take the Bible in the canonical order that it's in from the Old Testament to the New Testament. But just the fact of going through it verse by verse, we are forced to deal with what's there. Instead of jumping around, which there's also merit in that. There's also merit in taking a topical approach or a topic. What does finances look like in the Bible? What does marriage look like in the Bible? What does dealing with anger look like in the Bible, or lust or wrath or what have you? So there's reward in that too. But again, the cool thing is that is in going verse by verse, we get to see the whole of the Bible, and we are forced to look at issues as they come up. And last time in dealing with vengeance, I mentioned not being qualified, and again I'm not, but yet nonetheless, taking it verse by verse, we're forced to take a look at vengeance, right? And then otherwise, if we're jumping around, not going through the Bible in that fashion, then then we may not have to deal with it. So anyway, good stuff there, and just wanted to point that out. And today we're going to pick up in verse 17 of 2 Samuel, and go through 27. And this is a lament or a lamentation of David, and it's titled The Song of the Bow. And it's captured here in a poetic format. And the older I get, the more and more I love poetry. And there's something about poetry, and especially with David and in his Psalms and everything, just the power of the pen, and in the poetry capturing the essence of something, crying out, weeping, joyous, exuberant, but that poem, capturing it in a poem fashion, getting to the essence of what's up. So verse 17, it says, Then David lamented with this lamentation over Saul and over Jonathan his son, and he told them to teach the children of Judah the song of the bow. Indeed, it is written in the book of Jasher. David here is commanding. Hey, he's telling them. Maybe not commanding, but this is the word from a future king, and his words would be held in high esteem. And he's telling them, teach the children of Judah the song of the bow, and brings to mind Moses back in Deuteronomy. Moses telling the children of Israel to capture this song that he would pen in chapter 32 of Deuteronomy. But in chapter 31, verse 19, Moses is saying, Now therefore write down this song for yourselves, and teach it to the children of Israel. Put it in their mouths, that this song may be a witness for me against the children of Israel. And then we see that song in chapter 32 of Deuteronomy. And how much song is a part of our life. The love songs that you remember, you might just get a certain beat going, and then the lyrics of the song come to mind. That's what there is here. And David also knows the power of song, the power of poem, to really be ingrained on the minds of the people. And he's telling them here, write this down. And he also brings up the book of Jasher here. And we're going to need to deal with this because the book of Jasher is, what is that? And the book of Jasper, or Jasher, sorry, is the book, means the book of the upright one, or the book of the just ones. And in Joshua, which we've already gone through, in the book of Joshua, chapter 10, verses 12 and 13, we also saw the book of Jasher and the fact that it was mentioned. And the book of Jasher would have been kind of this collection of state poems of kind of a repository, just a capturing of these poems and songs and whatnot. And of note here is the fact that it's extra biblical, meaning the book of Jasher, it's not part of the Bible. We don't have it here. And just like today, of even in our studies, I may reference a book. The book of Jasher, here's an example of that, of this extra biblical content where something's being referenced basically to make a point. And in Joshua, where the book of Jasher is mentioned, that's a good illustration of that, because a point's being made. And in this context of that it exists in Joshua, it's talking about the sun standing still in those verses there of Joshua 10, 12, and 13. It says there, "At that time Joshua spoke to the Lord in the day when the Lord gave the Amorites over to the sons of Israel, and he said in the sight of Israel, Sun, stand still at Gibeon, and moon in the valley of Ajalon. And the sun stood still." So Joshua referencing this book of Jasher, in a sense he would be saying, hey look, it's spoken of there as well. And we have other examples of this throughout the Bible. Some other extra biblical books. In Numbers, we are told of the book of the Wars of the Lord. In First Chronicles, we're told of the book of Samuel the seer. There's also the book of Nathan the prophet, book of Gad the seer. Even Solomon had written down thousands of songs. And although there were these thousands of songs written down by Solomon, we only have 2 that were captured in Psalms, that being Psalm 72 and Psalm 127. And even in the New Testament, in Titus, Titus references a Cretan, so quotes this Cretan poet. In the book of Acts, there's Paul quotes Epimenides and Aratus in his speech, and quoting some of their poetry. So that's it. Just that there is extra biblical content that is spoken of, and that's referenced here. So now we can move on. Verse 19: "The beauty of Israel is slain on your high places. How the mighty have fallen. Tell it not in Gath, proclaim it not in the streets of Ashkelon, lest the daughters of the Philistines rejoice, lest the daughters of the uncircumcised triumph. O mountains of Gilboa, let there be no dew nor rain upon you, nor fields of offerings, for the shield of the mighty is cast away there. The shield of Saul, not anointed with oil, from the blood of the slain, from the fat of the mighty. The bow of Jonathan did not turn back, and the sword of Saul did not return empty. Saul and Jonathan were beloved and pleasant in their lives, and in their death they were not divided. They were swifter than eagles, they were stronger than lions. O daughters of Israel, weep over Saul, who clothed you in scarlet with luxury, who put ornaments of gold on your apparel. How the mighty have fallen in the midst of battle. Jonathan was slain in your high places. I am distressed for you, my brother Jonathan. You have been very pleasant to me. Your love to me was wonderful, surpassing the love of women. How the mighty have fallen, and the weapons of war perished." David is really capturing something here, and capturing, from a certain point of view. Here's David's opportunity. He's been anointed as king. Saul is slain. Jonathan is slain. And, with Saul being slain, here's this path to kingship just wide open. And he's got the bigger picture in mind. Because, again, from a certain point of view, he could be excited and talk about all of the bad things of Saul, and all, how Saul persecuted him, and he could easily run Saul's name into the ground, and just be, instantly, hey, a power hungry, and give me the throne, and let's get this thing going. And that's not the case. It's not. He's here lamenting. He has spent time weeping and fasting, and very very keen on what's going on here. Yes, it's a sad day. In verse 19, he had said, "The beauty of Israel is slain on your high places." This is an umph in the history of Israel. A king has fallen. The first king, in fact, of Israel, Saul, is now fallen. And David, being a statesman, he considers that a big deal. And then right on the heels of that, he's hoping to fill that void. He's hoping to fulfill his kingship as well. How the mighty have fallen, and we see that refrain 3 times in this small section here. Here in verse 19, how the mighty have fallen. Verse 25, how the mighty have fallen. Verse 27, how the mighty have fallen. And that's just it. That's his perspective. And then back in verse 20, tell it not in Gath. Proclaim it not in the streets of Ashkelon, lest the daughters of the Philistines rejoice. He didn't want his enemies rejoicing at the fact that Saul had fallen. He didn't want to hear that. He didn't want these uncircumcised Philistines rejoicing in the death of a king of Israel. And then in 21, O mountains of Gilboa, let there be no dew nor rain upon you. This would be a poetical strain, much like Job, who we'll see as we get into the book of Job, when Job says, I curse the day that I was born. Here, this would be a poetical strain as well. Let there be no dew nor rain upon you. Just to point to the depth of, man, this is a dreadful day. He would not really want the land of Judah, the land of Israel, to not have any dew or rain upon it. But again, to point to the depth of what's going on here. For the shield of the mighty is cast away there, the shield of Saul not anointed with oil. So Dave's is very generous to Saul. We see very positive things in this, really capturing the positive aspects of Saul. And some things to point out is that he was anointed with oil, anointed by Saul. So, in other words, Saul was anointed by God. In verse 21, at the end of that verse there, the shield of Saul not anointed with oil. Because he's fallen, now this shield which had been anointed of oil, pointing to him being anointed of God, now he's fallen, that's no longer the case. Also speaks of him as a man of war. And then also speaks of Saul as beloved and pleasant with Jonathan. And then also the verse 24, who clothed you in scarlet with luxury, and speaking out to those in Israel, talking about how Saul, hey, he enriched you with luxury, with ornaments of gold on your apparel. So in other words, he had been a good king. He had enriched your land. He had enriched you guys. Let's not forget that. So that ends chapter 1 of 2 Samuel, and we already went through the next place we would end up would be in Psalm 18, and we looked at that last time. So when we're together next time, we're going to pick up in chapter 2, and here we're going to see David anointed as the king of Judah. So may God be with you guys, and I'll see you Wednesday. Just have a blessed beginning of the week here. Stay in the Word, read it for yourself, dive in, discover what the Lord has for you. God bless.